Hello and welcome to the video. Now, I got sent a couple of things from HGLRC to have a look at just as Christmas was starting, and I've finally got around to having a look at them, particularly as the weather has got better, properly allowed me to fly this little thing here. This is the Draknight. This is a little toothpick style quad, and I'm not a massive fan of toothpick style. It's not something that's never really floated my boat. We're all different, we all like different things, but for indoor flying I like the kind of smaller whoop style models with the enclosed props, or outside I prefer to fly minimum of 3-inch, but ideally 4 to 5-inch quad or larger. But this is one of those little models that has been reviewed by a couple of channels and they've really raved about it, so I thought I would get one in. Now, I'm a fan of HGLRC stuff. I've had quite a lot of their stuff in. I'll put a couple of links below to some of their other quads. So I was interested to see what they would bring to the party, making this style of toothpick. The other thing that was in the box was this thing here. This is the C1 remote control. This is one of their first radios that I've had in from HGLRC, and this one is a 500 milliwatt express LRS radio, but we'll have a look at that quickly before we get into the detail with the Draknight. So stay tuned, I'll give you my impression of both of these pieces of kit. So let's first of all look at this HGLRC C1 remote control. Again, this is a 500 milliwatt Express LRS version 3 installed radio, and it can be bought as a package with a dongle and other pieces too. They reckon you're going to get 6 hours of life out of the supplied 18650s, and there is a nano module bay at the rear. Now, this is an interesting kind of radio, and I think these are very useful for things like simulators. I don't tend to use them on normal size models. I've been flying the Draknight on my little Radio Master Pocket with a screen and all of the usual stuff, which allows you to really access the power of HTX, but also Express LRS as well. I'm not a fan of inbuilt batteries on radio controls like this. When they're low that you can't fly, that means at the start of the day you might get 6 hours of battery life out of those 18650s, but the middle of the afternoon where you've been caning it and having a wonderful time, well, let's hope you plugged it into charge while you are having a cup of tea and your sandwiches at lunchtime, because if you're not, you don't want those batteries getting so low that something misbehaves. So actually, having replaceable batteries for me is quite a big deal for something like this. I'm also not a fan of the fact that there isn't a screen, so you can't make config changes and mess around with your Express LRS setups. It makes that stuff a lot trickier, and there's only 2 3-position switches, so it's okay for very basic quads, and that's about it. You get your arming switch, you get your 3 modes. This is okay as a PC trainer radio. I'm not sure exactly who it's aimed at. I'd put this £60 for this radio towards something else personally, like the Radio Master Boxer or the Zorro, or they cost about £40 more, or something similar myself. You get an awful lot more radio for the money. So I'm guessing this C1 remote control is more for those instances where HGLRC are going to sell it packaged along with one of their quads. Speaking of quads, let's talk about the Draknight. I've seen this reviewed by lots of people with the usual kind of thumbnails, you know, amazing and all that stuff. So I thought, you know what, let's get one in and find out if that's actually the case. The Draknight is a 2-inch toothpick drone suitable for indoor and outdoor light flying. And I've found that in light winds, it flies absolutely great. Product name is the Draknight, and the weight is about 44.3 grams, excluding the weight of a receiver if you put an optional one in. However, I've been flying it with the onboard Express LRS receiver that's part of the unit. So the frame itself is a 2-inch rack, wheelbase is 91.8 millimeters, maximum supported props are 2-inch props, so the overall size is 104 by 104 millimeters. In the middle of this thing is a Spectre 12 ES2 to 4S all-in-one flight controller. It's STM32 F411 based. Input voltage, it'll support 2 to 4S LiPo, and it will support a continuous current of 12 amps or a 15 amp peak current from the ESCs. Supports D-shots, 150, 300 and 600, and is running Betaflight as it is supplied. It also has a built-in receiver. For this one I've got here, it's Express LRS 2.4 gig, and the built-in image transmission, this is an analog quad, is 0, 2500 or 400 milliwatts adjustable. Camera at the front of this, unfortunately, is the Cadix Ant. I'm not a fan of the Ant. You'll see an image of it in a moment as it flies, and the recommended propeller on this is a Gemfan 2023 propeller to go on those 10,000 kV motors designed to run on 2S. Recommended battery for this is anything from 550 to 720 milliamp hours. There are a couple of holders for different battery sizes. I've actually been flying it on 450 and 550 milliamp hours, and I think it's better on those lighter batteries. In terms of the beta flight setup, well, plug it in via the USB cable. There's nothing really to write home about here. As usual, I would recommend connecting it to your PC, going in, just making sure that your radio is happy and bound, making sure that things like the modes are set and the OSD is laid out in the way that you want. I'll put a dump and diff below if you're interested. So what's it like to fly? Well, this is probably my favourite toothpick that I've ever flown. Now, again, with me saying at the beginning, I'm not a fan of toothpicks. This is probably one that I would keep around, kind of keep with the little radio and my goggles, so that in places where I want to fly and not bother people or be too noticeable, this is actually a ton of fun. It is very quiet, and quiet props equal efficient props, and that means that I'm getting a half decent flight time out of this, about 3 minutes out of my 450 milliamp hour battery. That's in relatively cold conditions, as we are in January here. Lots of power for fun flying. It's hovering well under a third throttle, so there is lots of extra power for blips and flips and messing about. It's very fun to fly, and it's very stable though, even though it's nice and small, and there are no odd quirks or weirdness in the flying that I've done here. It flies very predictably and gives a lot of confidence. It will be a good quad to learn on because it's not big enough to get into trouble when it smashes into stuff. Those LEDs at the rear are great for line of sight orientation. I didn't realize until I started flying this that they are by default designed to show the battery status. So when you first plug it in and start flying, they're green. As then you continue to fly, they go more amber and eventually go to full red when it's time to land. Again, the Ant camera image isn't great. It's the Ant camera, but for those of you that don't care about that or flying in really bright conditions, it does allow you to see where you're going if you're flying FPV. Personally, if I was getting one of these, I would probably replace the Ant camera with one of the other small cameras that will fit in this format. So there is a lot to like on this, actually. It has impressed me more than I thought it was going to. I like the fact that there's an LEDs at the back. There's LEDs in other places, which are great for darker nights or evenings if you're flying. And there's also a buzzer, which I consider a must on a small model like this. When it lands in the grass and you can't find the thing, the buzzer will help you get it back. I like the way that it shows that battery status on those LEDs at the back. Now, lots of people don't fly line of sight. I would always recommend personally being able to fly it line of sight before you move on to FPV. But for those of you that want to try line of sight, those LEDs act as a great orientation aid, as well as telling you when it's time to land. Handling and power are good and great for fun flying, and the flight time isn't too bad. Again, I'm only getting just over 3 minutes from a 450 milliamp hour 2S LiPo in the cold here. And there is the included mount for a mini action camera, something like a RunCam Pro is shown in the images. However, that is going to seriously impact the amount of time that you can fly carrying that extra weight. My advice would be to keep it as light as possible. It's more fun that way. Only a couple of things to be aware with this. There are two profiles in Betaflight, one for freestyle and one for filming. So make sure you are using the right one. I've been flying mine on the filming, and it gives a very buttery, smooth, well set up kind of flying. The Cadix Ant is one of my least favourite cameras and lets this down, but then I say that every time. If you want to replace it with something else, it's a relatively easy job, and there are lots of other cameras that perform much better for that size. And there isn't any manual as such on the model or the flight controller, so unfortunately if you want to start tinkering or messing about or repairing stuff, you're going to have to do a little bit of searching. HGLRC, please make that kind of detail a lot easier to find and linked from the product pages. And finally, the CRSF antenna on this is the little ceramic type, which is fine for the kind of close-in flying that I'm doing with it here, but not a fan of it for doing anything but close-in flying. I've had lots of bad experiences with ceramic CRSF antennas kind of giving up the ghost once you get several dozen meters away. So in summary, this is one of the nicest toothpicks that I've personally flown. If you've been looking at this and umming and ahhing, I would say go for it. It's a cracking little model. So if you're looking for a quad to move on to, that you want to fly outdoors as well as indoors, this would be a great second quad. Or if you have a little bit of room that you can fly around outdoors, this would be a great way to learn. Or if you are a pilot like me that likes to have a quad in the boot of the car along with the battery and goggles in case you see a nice spot that you want to fly in, this would be a great setup for that too. Thank you for watching the video. If you watch my videos and find them useful, then please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the channel a lot. If you really like what I'm doing here, you can become a Patreon and support the time I spend helping others and get access to lots of exclusive benefits. Link is in the video description. Remember that all the videos on the channel are organized into playlists, so you can easily use those playlists to find all the videos on a subject that you are interested in. Add Painless 360 to your searches on Google and YouTube, and it'll help you find my content for any particular topic. Thanks again for watching, and as always, happy flying.